So it's been fun to see that grow in this area. We're based in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And my partner, Keith Ingdahl, who's not here tonight, but we are owners of Grand Tours. So the product is ours. And we've been planning tours together now, combined for about 40 years between his experience and mine. And we were both former teachers, which does make it a little bit unique because we really do come from the planning from an educator's standpoint. And I think that's important because, as Dan outlined, the tours are number one, an educational experience combining concert performance, because most of the kids have been studying instruments since 5th or 6th grade. So it's really a culminating experience, and Grand Tours was developed along that philosophy of the Grand Tour. If you're a PBS fan, you know that in England in the 18th century, when you were finished with your formal education, as a gentleman you were expected to go on the Grand Tour, which went from London to Paris, crossed over the Alps, went to Venice, Florence, Rome, picked up as many statues from Pompeii as you could, and then went back to England and created your own art gallery. But that whole philosophy really of a life-changing travel experience, that's really all we're interested in as a company, and that's why I think we work well with schools that share those same values. Our company doesn't do any domestic travel. We only do international concert tours for high schools, colleges, community-based ensembles, and some special interest groups like your own Shaker Latin Club who went to Greece last year. So it's really fun to be back here because the school does have these great values of travel. Dan's going to move my slides. These are some of the old travel posters in the day, going back to on TWA, which no longer is here sadly, but to Madrid, to Valencia, to Barcelona. My purpose tonight is to just briefly run you through the itinerary. You have a paragraph format itinerary in your hands tonight. We'll maybe move some things around from the site inspection, but not much. And I would say then, those of you who maybe have traveled with us before, when we come out about a month and a half to maybe a month before the tour for the final meeting, we'll have a complete hour-by-hour itinerary for you, starting with when to meet at Cleveland Hopkins, who our guides are going to be, breakfast in the morning till what's going on till 11 o'clock at night, all the hotels listed, general travel information, emergency numbers, all of that. Our documents are quite complete. So this isn't the format you will see down the road, but it's a great way to start these tours. I wanted to give you a little geography on this program, just for some perspective. I like to do this with most of our tours because most of ours are overland from one city arrival point to another. And on this particular tour, you'll see that the unique thing about Shaker, as Dan said, an air gateway that can handle 300 people. And there are not many in Europe left. You're talking about Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Munich, Paris, London, maybe Madrid, Rome. That's about it. Milan. So there aren't very many places you can land 300 people in the same day. But we're excited because we have already pre-contracted and deposited on 260 air seats. So we're going to be able to take most of the group already. And if the parents are real nice, we might get some more seats for the shadow tour. We'll see after the meeting, maybe. So on this program, the itinerary, we're landing in Madrid as a base. And we have 2-day excursions. We'll see Madrid itself, of course, and a concert or two in this area. But we're making a day trip to El Escorial Monastery and Segovia. And to put in perspective, both of these are only about an hour bus ride from Madrid. I think that helps for you to get some perspective. We're not big fans of all-day-long bus rides. The next excursion down to Toledo, another completely different, beautiful medieval city. That one is about an hour. Then we're going to our longest stay. We'll be coming from Madrid over to Valencia, and we're going to stop in a UNESCO World Heritage Town, Cuenca, on the way. The hours then will continue up the coast then to Barcelona to end the tour, but the hours there on the Google map routing for a car, 1,000 kilometers, that would be on the short side for a 9-day tour. So you're really talking about 700 miles, 600 to 700 miles. And so it's kind of be like going from here to New York maybe over an entire week's trip. So the bus rides are very, very manageable on this program. All right, so the way this works, we are going to be leaving from 2 gateways. This is much like our last tour to Turkey. We found that it's great to get to the international gateway because it eliminates the chance of misconnections to Europe. And just like Minneapolis, we've learned that the weather in March, like Cleveland, you know, anything can happen. So we send the group to, we have 180 seats that are going to be leaving out of Chicago, and we have another 80 seats already that are going to be leaving out of Detroit. And so those are 5-hour, 6-hour bus rides, just like we did for Turkey. We get to the airport, we check in, and off we go. Flights are overnight, both very nice air carriers for service. So we fly overnight, and we arrive in Madrid the next morning. We will have a Spanish professional tour guide on every motor coach. And on a Shaker tour, you're talking 6 to 7, 50 to 55 passenger motor coaches. And generally, the sign-up system for Shaker allows friends to be with friends, which is always nice. We will have a guide on each coach. We will set out immediately into Madrid and start to see the highlights of the city. I've listed some of those in your brochure for you. The Royal Palace, the Parliament, the Plaza Mayor, these are all things. And these tours are a mix of on the coach, off the coach. Some of that depends on the weather. If it's pouring rain, nobody wants to be off the coach too much. If it's a beautiful sunny day, we go to El Retiro Park, we'll be off the coach for a good portion. So it's a mix, and the guides know how to handle that. We'll continue on, the La Ventus Bull Ring, El Retiro Park. I'll make a note on our hotels. We try with Shaker to get everybody in the same hotel. On some of the tours, we've had to split, but on this hotel, on this particular tour, it looks like we're going to get everybody into the same property all the way through. We use 4-star hotels, twin occupancy, 2 beds to a room, unless we need a triple, because maybe there's 3 odd boys or girls. We don't let any student room alone on the tour, and when we say twin occupancy in Europe, that means 2 separate beds in a room, private en suite bathroom facilities. So if you're used to the old system of hostels and things of that nature, that's not really the level of accommodation we use given the size of the group. So we'll check in and we'll do a group dinner. I'll highlight at our included dinners. You'll see at the end of a day, we've included 5 of 7 dinners on this program. And by a group dinner means we'll have either a buffet with a group this size or a set dinner. We will have options for vegetarian, vegan, lactose, gluten-free. All of that is possible. So if you're a special dietary needs person, no worries. We can accommodate that on the program. A group dinner would have a full set course menu, and table water would be provided. If you want to buy soft drinks, bottled juices, things of that nature, you would need to bring some extra cash for those. Settle with your waiter at the end of the meal. That's a busy day, jet lag. We get to bed about 9, 10 o'clock that night, and because we've got another busy day following. Next day we are headed out of Madrid. You remember from the map, we're going to El Escorial, the monastery and the palace, and we are going to Segovia. 2 beautiful towns. We're really zeroing in on our first concert venue in Segovia. Beautiful shot of the castle here. El Escorial as well, the monastery, beautiful interiors, just a fantastic stop en route out to Segovia. Segovia, another one of the medieval Castilian walled cities, narrow streets, remaining fortifications. And we've got a picture coming. You'll see what we have in mind for the concert venue. I think it's right after this. But we then, after a full day and a concert in Segovia, with some free time for small group exploration as well. These are walled cities. You can't get lost. So kids can get out and buy souvenirs and get some lunch and things of that nature because all the lunches are on their own. We'll come back into Madrid, change at the hotel, and we'll go out on the town in the evening for a big flamenco show in Madrid. Here's the concert venue we have in mind for the band, much like iconic venues we've used across the world. You'll see pictures maybe in the lobby of the Shaker Band at the Great Wall of China. Shaker Band at the Taksim Square in Istanbul. Everywhere Rome. You know, we try to find really neat venues for the kids. This is the Roman Aqueduct, still standing in Segovia. Concert venue areas right beneath it. We need a lot of space for this big band. So concerts, the way they work is we'll set up the venue, advertisements in all the local papers of the town. It'll be promoted through the school music programs as well. And then we try to station them at the time that maximizes the audience. I think in Turkey, if I recall the Taksim Square concert, we maybe had 2,000 people. I remember the same in Shanghai as well. On the Nanjing Road, we must have had 2,000 to 3,000 audience. So the Shaker Band tends to draw. It's big and it's an interesting thing because they do not have this type of ensemble in Europe. So that's what's cool about it. Next day, we're still in Madrid overnight, same hotel. We're on to Toledo. This is the home city of the artist El Greco from your classical studies. And so we'll spend the whole day down here. This is a really cool town. Again, you can see the neat thing about Toledo, it's a mix of Moorish architecture and Castilian, because this is a city fought over between the Moors and the Christians for centuries, taken, retaken, conquest. And you can see the fortifications, the walls, much of it's still there, the Alcazar at the top. So it's a really neat city for kids to get out and explore. We'll do a full guided walking tour of the city in the morning. We put a possible concert here because it's another great place to play. And after the site inspection, we'll slot in where we want the concerts based on what the Shaker Heights band staff thinks is going to fit the needs of the band the best. It's not just where you play, it's where do the buses have to park? How far do we have to walk with the instruments? All of that comes into play in terms of the concerts. We're going to come back to Madrid, and we also want to slot in a guided visit to the El Prado Museum. That would be much like the Louvre in Paris, and other great museums around the world. Beautiful shot here of Toledo in the early evening. Okay, so our stay in Madrid has concluded. This is our transit day to Valencia. We're going to leave. There's a beautiful UNESCO World Heritage town in Cuenca that we will stop, and with the size of our group, we'll probably take over the entire town. You know, you can imagine it, right? 300 people rolling in, the people hanging out the windows, wonder what's going on. It's a neat feature of the size of the group. It's a dynamic that you can't duplicate in any way. We'll explore this on foot, free time in small chaperone groups because there's no place to go and it's neat. Sit down and get lunch at a cafe, those types of things. We will then, after that, continue to Valencia over to the coast. On arrival in Valencia, we'll get into our second hotel. You can imagine to check 300 people into a hotel, it takes some time. The hotels are pretty organized, but it's an hour and a half process by the time we get everybody up to their rooms. We'll get settled in, relax a bit after a busy day, and then we'll have a group dinner. Either at the hotel or walk down to a local restaurant or split the group into a couple. Beautiful shot there of the streets in Valencia. You get a flavor for these towns. All of these towns have an old